virtual week. But you know, it's just part of it. You just gotta, you just gotta pivot. So
Which time?
yeah.
My sister got the vaccine a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think the most critical issue right now is just not enough.
Only, it was just volunteer run then, and only very occasionally open. And he just sparse. He's just gonna start his new term. He got reelected, so this is his second term, third year.
What I'll probably, I'll talk to my, housing commissioner.
So I have my main contract.
We're just gonna try to make sort of some list of places, so that this, we have 2 employees, who are actually not county schools employees, that we have loaned to that program, or given to that program. I don't really know how that works technically, but something so that those 2 employees will have pride for when something comes in.
Oh, I know.
Do we say, no, you can take this? We would much rather
Yeah, so
get it
And
going
they
on.
what, probably close
So
to
either
74,
just if they take it
75.
there, or take it in and then contact.
I think he was, no,
Good afternoon.
it's amazing.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll have Mr. McMillan lead us in the moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance.
Please face the flag, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
Of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Board of Education's January 13th regular session meeting. We appreciate everyone who is in attendance and those who are watching online. Unfortunately, Ms. Babb is unable to join us this evening, and Ms. Henderson is attending electronically. Ms. Henderson, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Welcome. We have a few upcoming meetings, all of which will be held in the Andrew Johnson Building Boardroom and are open to the public. Our next policy review meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 20th at 1:30 p.m. Our Joint Education Committee will also meet on January 20th at 4 p.m. The Naming Facilities Committee is meeting on Monday, January 25th at 9 a.m. And the board's next quarterly work session is on Wednesday, January 27th at 5 p.m. Board members, you received an email notice about the addition of items 5C8 and 5C9 under consent agenda. Both of these items deal with the use of pool facilities, the one for Lenore City Pool or one for Lenore City's pool and one for Tenova Health and Fitness Center for our swim, aquatic, and water polo teams. Since these were added after last week's work session, any discussion or questions can be entertained when we consider our consent agenda items. Also, as we discussed at our work session, item 7A was withdrawn. Are there other requested changes to the agenda?
Yes. Thank you,
Mr.
Madam Chair.
Watson?
I'd like to request that the superintendent provide the board with information related to any changes or impacts with KCS related to the Knox County Health Department shift in contact tracing.
Okay, we can add that to the end after our regular agenda items.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other changes? Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. All right, Ms. Coatney, we will have the reading of the agenda, please.
Thank you. Item 5, consent agenda.
We have a motion by Ms. Christie, a second by Mr. McMillan. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6A, approve second reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J201, random searches for dangerous weapons as amended.
We have a motion by Ms. Christie, a second by Mr. McMillan. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Superintendent Thomas, can you let us know about any result or anything that's happened related to this policy related to procedure?
Yes, sir. Madam Chair, members of the board, of course, second reading of the policy, but we have developed procedures, administrative procedures for ensuring that the random search will be random. That's online. If you were to go to the Knox County Schools website and look under Board of Education, and then you can find administrative procedures and click on that, you can find that policy, our procedure. It's J-201. And basically just to talk about a little bit about what it says, that they will be scheduled, the search is scheduled in advance with principal approval. Also, the director of schools must approve. They'll be supervised by a sergeant or a more senior supervisor assigned to the school security division. There'll be the appropriate number of security officers there to complete the search at the start of the day. It'll be videotaped and archived. Also, the school resource officer for that school will not be directly participating in the search, and then the randomness will be based on the volume of students entering the school building, but we will have enough personnel there to start to do the search and then begin the school day on time. So, and again, depending again on the number of the students, the number might be every 6th student or 10th student or 15th student, so just to ensure the randomness. So I know didn't ask for that, but just for the public to understand that we do have procedures in place to ensure that this is a random search.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are all members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7A was withdrawn. 7B, approve receipt of AAA 2020 academic enrichment grants in the total amount of $41,103.30 for Knox County Schools Hearing Services, Instructional Technology, Speech and Language, and RTI, and Halls High School, Hardin Valley Academy, New Hopewell Elementary School, Powell High School, and Vine Middle Magnet School.
We have a motion by Ms. Christie, a second by Ms. Satterfield. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
7C, approve Tennessee Department of Education Middle School CTE Career Exploration Grants for Southfield Middle School in the amount of $9,960.19 and Vine Middle Magnet School in the amount of $9,326.
We have a motion by Ms. Christie, a second by Ms. Satterfield. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
7D, approve Tennessee Department of Education Middle School STEM Startup Grants for Bearden Middle School in the amount of $9,517.99 and for Gresham Middle School in the amount of $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Watson, a second by Ms. Owen. Questions? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
8A, approve contract to audit accounts with Pew & Company PC for audit of Knox County Schools' internal school funds for the period beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021 at a cost of $117,134 using general purpose funds.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Christie. I think the second was Ms. Owen. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9A, approve fiscal year 2021 budget line item transfer in the amount of $15,000 from the physical plant upgrades building construction account into the land acquisition account to cover potential costs associated with the Adrian Burnett Elementary School project at Felty Drive.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Christie, a second by, I heard Mr. Watson, I believe. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9B, approve retainer agreement with Millsaps Gowan Government Relations for provision of governmental consulting services to the Coalition of Large School Systems for the term of January 1 through December 31, 2021 at a cost of $37,500 using general purpose funds.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Owen, a second by Ms. Christie. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
And then we added item 9C for Mr. Watson, which will be the superintendent providing the board with any changes or impacts with the Knox County Health Department contact tracing protocols.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cody. Did you want to just go ahead and hear from Mr. Superintendent Thomas, or did you have a question? Okay, all right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. Talk a little bit about the change. What this means for Knox County Schools means very little different from what we've been doing in the fall semester. So just wanted to assure parents in the community that we will continue contact tracing. Our nurses, our school nurses were heavily involved in that process in the fall and will continue to be heavily involved. Many times we actually knew about active cases even prior to the health department because of folks who were so diligent about self-reporting. So again, don't anticipate a whole lot of change for us in terms of what the health department has announced. I know they're focusing more on the vaccine at this point, and it could mean that our numbers might be a little bit higher than even the county numbers from time to time based on the fact that we're contact tracing and the health department is not contact tracing. And just really wanted to say too, from the standpoint of our in-person enrollment today, I know we've been back in school. This is the second week back in school, and I'm not saying all 44,180 students were present today, but we did offer in-person instruction to 44,000 of our students today, which I think is very good. And again, I said last week, and I'll say this week, kudos to our teachers and our principals and our school staffs for doing an amazing job. We continue to work with the health department. Our HR department and our health services department communicate daily, multiple times a day, sometimes, in terms of making sure that the information we have and recorded is accurate, and we're on top of things. We also continue to work with the health department. I know Jason and Dr. Riswick are in communication on a regular basis, regular schedule basis, and then in addition, if there's situations that come up in between, we continue to work with our health department, and they've been extremely supportive. We're also working on a plan in terms of vaccination. So the next step for us over the next few days will probably be we will be sending a survey out to our employees, to all staff. Know that the vaccination is not mandatory, but certainly would encourage all staff to think about taking that vaccine when it's offered. And also we're working on a plan, working with the health department. Right now, we know that what we do know, and this is not definite, but what we've been told is it might be late February, early March before the vaccines are available. My hope is that we'll get a phone call way before then to say that, hey, we've got vaccines and we're ready to get started. So we'll continue to work with the health department. The survey for employees would be just to let us know, hey, I want to take the vaccine. This will help us, once it does become available, help us with the distribution process in terms of administering the vaccine. And we're, again, partnering with the health department. Talked to Dr. Joe Childs at Children's Hospital. I know Children's Hospital is possibly going to work with us in terms of administering that vaccination. So we'll continue to have those conversations and hopefully be ready as soon as the vaccines are made available for us to get started with the administration of those.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Watson?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Superintendent Thomas. I do have a couple follow-up questions. So with the vaccine, do we have any sense that there's going to be a possibility that can be done for teachers in the context of schools, or has that not been a part of the conversation yet?
That's a little bit early in the conversation with that. I know the problem is with in terms of us being able with the storage and
Sure.
keeping the vaccines, and those certain temperatures have to be maintained for the vaccine, and once it's out, I think you've got a certain amount of time in order to get that administered. So it's probably going to be best for us, and we'll still work out those logistics, but for the folks that are capable of handling that to be the ones to administer. But again, we'll work in partnership with them.
No. Thank you. And just one more question. So, and I'm just going to read this because it's a little bit, just the way I worded it, I think is important. So, with the self-reporting, one of the things that I've been curious about, and I think we've done a great job as a school system, and I really applaud Lisa and the staff across our district, especially in supporting the health department and all those actions. I also know that the virus is wearing thin on all of us. And I'm curious if there's been any conversation or concern about relying on self-reporting as we move forward in terms of our metrics. Is there concern that our data will not be as good from people just choosing not to self-report? And I know that's an open-ended question, and I know there's no definite response to that, but I guess so many of our metrics are really dependent on that information, and I'm just curious if there's been internal conversations about that in terms of self-reporting.
We've had those conversations, and again, just looking back at what happened in the fall, the vast majority of the information that we did receive was through self-reporting. So we don't anticipate that not continuing, but we'll continue to watch that. And then in addition to the metrics that we do watch, to looking at the substitute rate, our attendance rate for teachers, looking at that 7-day average, and just tracking the numbers each day. Certainly, we've seen an increase, but I'm not sure it has risen to the level that maybe folks anticipated it going to rise to at this point. Now, tomorrow, the next day, it could be much higher. But I'm hopeful. I think it appears that maybe it's not going to be as bad at this point that as people maybe predicted. Again, the numbers are still high, but so we don't anticipate that it's going to be a problem. But I don't know if Jason or John, if either one of y'all have anything to add to that, welcome it. If not, why, that's the best answer we have at this point. So unless y'all want to add something to that. But we will appreciate the questions, and we will. We meet every day to look. We're in constant conversation with principals. Obviously, they are there and on site. And if there are issues that get close to where we need to have more conversation, I know our grade level directors are talking to our principals, and we're meeting on a daily basis, and sometimes twice a day. Depending on what's happening. So we're going to just continue to do what we did in the fall. We feel like we had really great success with that, and we plan to continue.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know what I've just been hearing in the community is just in some groups a heightened anxiety, and I think it's important when people see something as public as what the health department has done to say, hey, it's time for us to refocus on vaccinations and stop contact tracing, which is obviously the move that they need to make. I think people automatically start asking, well, what ripple effect is that going to have? And so ultimately what I want people to understand is what you're saying is that it's going to have very little effect on us. Without saying that, that's the assumption people make, is it's going to have this effect. So I appreciate you clarifying and restating kind of what we've been holding to.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that opportunity. And I just want to say, too, to our parents and to our students and our staff are so diligent with the mask, wearing the mask and hand washing and sanitizing high-touch areas and staying home when sick. I mean, I really feel like that's had a tremendous impact on us. And I don't know where everyone is individually. I see the light at the end of the tunnel with this thing. There's probably still going to be a few months that we've got to go through, but with the vaccination, I'm very optimistic that that we can hopefully be back to some sense of normalcy, in the fall. So again, we're going to work and do our part, and just appreciate our parents and our students for adhering to the protocols, and I really think that's what's having such a positive effect, for us. So I just want to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Bounds?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In giving your information, you mentioned the word Children's Hospital and vaccinations in the same sentence, and I heard you say that you were in reference to our staff and employees being vaccinated, but I just didn't want social media to take it and run with it and us to have a PR nightmare. So we're not, your Children's Hospital is just coming alongside possibly to help administer to our staff and adult employees, right?
Right. They've got experience, in that process and the ability to make sure that the integrity of the vaccine is what it is. So we're talking adults.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure no one misheard that was listening.
No, thank
online.
you.
Thank you.
Great question.
Thank
or
you.
comment.
And also, Superintendent Thomas, our employees will not be required to take the vaccine. You may have said that already.
That's correct. We're not mandating that everyone take the vaccine. My hope is that folks will participate in this. I know, people are concerned. Obviously, we want to take every step that we can possibly take in order to make sure that our employees are safe and our students are safe. So I would encourage our folks, our employees, just to give it very serious consideration and make their decision, but we're not going to force it.
Thank you. And just on this topic of contact tracing, I would be remiss if I didn't note that I continue to speak to parents on a daily basis about their concern with healthy children being quarantined, the fact that students are wearing their masks diligently. Quarantining has never included all parties wearing masks. So I know I brought this up in an earlier meeting, and I continue to believe that we're quarantining too many healthy children. Studies show that children are not passing the virus at school. They're much more likely to get it outside of school. And so I continue to hear from school personnel as well as parents who are concerned that we're continuing to quarantine too many healthy children. So I just need to make sure that that we recognize that there are differences of opinion on that topic. So with that, we will move to public forum. Ms. Courtney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first speaker tonight is Avery Flatford. Is Avery Flatford here? Thank you, Ms. Flatford. Ms. Flatford, if you can state your name for the record and also your county of residence, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Avery Flatford. So, good evening. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. My name is Avery Flatford. I'm a junior at Farragut High School, class of 2022. I'm here to speak on behalf of all Knox County school athletes. I'm not here to recite any numbers or give any data points about the COVID trends. I'm here as a student athlete to give you a face with reality of where we are right now. We are living in a very challenging time and uncertain time that has quick and drastic changes. As a student, we are expected to accept those changes, and I'm speaking on all of spring sports to say that we are not okay with those changes. Many of us, if not all of us, have seen the effects of COVID firsthand with our families, friends, and communities. Just a few weeks ago, I lost my great-grandmother to COVID. Our holidays have been altered, so we know and understand that this is real. We also know that now is the time to speak up before it's too late to advocate for us student athletes. Last month, the Board of Health originally recommended to the school board encourage not to allow spring extracurricular activities, but was changed to limit extracurricular activities, to say not allow spring sport extracurricular activities. 3 months before the season starts is unacceptable. Seeing that made my stomach drop. I remember the tears of my shortstop Bailey Myers crying, to the hurt of my catcher Katie Tuggle, Abigail Green, our senior pitcher who had worked to have her time on the mound. It was taken shortly after the season started last spring. This should be a choice for each player to make their own decisions with their family and be supported by their teammates and coaches if a player chooses not to play for safety reasons. But most of us are competitors. We live to compete. Our last game should be holding up a state trophy that we worked so hard for, dreamed of as a child, or hugging our teammates and coaches because we lost our season or playing days are over. It should not be another lighting of the field for 21 minutes to honor the seniors. We live for the moment of playing our rivals, bus rides, and nerves throughout the day, of competing that night, picking up our teammates and when they are struggling, hugging our parents after the games are matched, and hearing them say they are proud of us, or you'll get them next time, or smiling at the little girl or boy who is practicing in the backyard to be just like you one day. If our spring is canceled again, many seniors will not have a next time. Most will not go and play in college. Prior to COVID, 1 in 13 athletes went to play college. With NCAA allowing an additional year to college players, that means even less high school seniors and now juniors will be recruited. Every game played is an opportunity to be seen and maybe play at the next level. It's a chance to pursue that dream. We watched this past fall as our high school teams took the field for football and soccer with great precautions. We will take those same precautions. With less fans, only parents and cheerleaders or students, our basketball friends are playing but missing a supportive student section community. We are missing another memory-making experiences with our classmates in the stands or cheering our friends playing the game they love. I missed supporting my friends. That was important for me. For as long as I can remember, I have always had to take precautions to protect myself from being sick. I live every day with cystic fibrosis, so yes, I'm standing here potentially at high risk for COVID. My parents have always let me live my life to the fullest, including going to school in person this year. All my coaches have never held me to a lesser standard because of my disease. Playing softball at a high level throughout the United States has kept me out of the hospital. Due to my successes, I am able to have the opportunity to be the first D1 pitcher with cystic fibrosis. I'm going to be playing at Tennessee Tech on scholarship. Right now, many Knox student athletes are getting ready for a spring season with goals of being the last team in person and standing in Murfreesboro, including myself and my Lady Admirals. COVID rules are honestly holding me back more than my CF has. I went to PT for so I'm here on behalf of all my rivals and friends throughout Knox County to let us play. I ask leaders of each team to be an example. Wear your mask, wash your hands constantly, stay home if you are not feeling well, social distance. Talk to your teams and have them on board, whatever it takes for all of us to play. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak on behalf of hundreds of Knox County School student athletes.
Thank you, Ms. Flatford, for being here. Madam Chair, our next speaker is Betsy Hobkirk. Thank you, Ms. Hobkirk. If you can state your name and your county of residence, and then you have 5 minutes.
Sure, thank you. My name is Betsy Hobkirk. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, Knox County. I'm a teacher at West Hills Elementary, and I wanted to talk to you about possibilities. I won't go through statistics. We all know what's going on in our community. But I'm feeling, I'm feeling an increased number of people around me, my fellow colleagues, that things are kind of converging right now to be risky in school. And I really feel, while I am optimistic about the vaccine, we know that the immunity from the vaccine really won't kick in until February, March. At the earliest. It takes a while. You receive the vaccine, but it takes time before we get the positive effects of it. And I would like to encourage this body to really consider going virtual till we vaccinate, or some kind of predictable hybrid schedule to reduce the number of students in the building. I've been working with a group of teachers and parents to think about this, and to also think about community learning pods, because to support parents, we know that this has been a huge hardship on parents. We have the Great Schools Partnerships, PTO, PTA, YMCA, churches, community centers, libraries. It could be access to support us to reduce the number of students that are currently in our schools. At my school, we currently do have a YMCA, and when we went red, they did do virtual teaching. They supported our students. When their staff were exposed to COVID and they had to shut down. They then moved to a church. So those networks are there, and I think they need to be strengthened. I saw firsthand how that was possible. I think it's time to get more flexible and creative with how we move forward, and we really need the community with us. I feel like the schools have kind of been tasked with keeping things going, with keeping the economy going, with supporting parents to be able to work, and I think more entities need to step up. We know that there's $50 million that has recently been received, and a huge chunk of that could go towards supporting virtual learners. So the reason that I think we need to be more flexible is I keep seeing more evidence of kind of the same old thinking as if we're not in a pandemic. We know there is a sub-shortage, and to cope with that, when teachers are out due to quarantine or illness, classes are being collapsed, which leads to crowding and makes it more difficult or impossible to socially distance, which we know is essential. Masking is inconsistent in different schools. It's enforced more vigorously in some places than others. Some teachers feel like they don't have the backing of the people they need to have the backing from to make sure that their students continue to mask. And even students who even have the good intentions and in places where you do have a strong administration, there's a lot of this and there's a lot of this, like unaware. You know, I spend a lot of time asking my students to show me how do you wear your mask. When students are in the hallway, they're shoulder to shoulder. We have evidence of this. And parents are disheartened when they see students playing out outside during recess. Community members can see that, where students are playing really closely together without their mask. And as a teacher, I totally understand that kids need a break. We know there's a custodial shortage, contact tracing is being decreased, days to be quarantined are decreasing, there's a more contagious COVID variant moving into the region. So I just feel like we need to, I don't have this rosy, optimistic outlook right now. I feel like there's a lot of things that are converging that are actually making the situation more urgent. And I would like us to be more flexible in how we go, what we do in these next 2 months, I think are actually critical. I don't feel safe. A lot of my fellow teachers don't feel safe in school. So I don't know what information you're getting, but I think you need to maybe dig a little bit deeper. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkirk, and Madam Chair, that concludes public forum.
Thank you, Ms. Cooney. Okay, we'll move to board forum. Anything from Ms. Satterfield, Ms. Owen, Mr. Watson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. One of the things I was reminded this week when I was in a number of different calls with organizations that come along, especially the most vulnerable in our community. For a few years as a community, we've kind of highlighted this idea of being trauma-informed and being trauma-responsive. I know Knox County Schools has done a lot of work in that amount, being culturally, through our Office of Culture. But the interesting thing about the COVID pandemic to me is that it's this universally traumatic event. And all of us experience trauma in significantly different ways. But all of us have experienced loss to some degree. I was just talking to another school board member right before this meeting who didn't get to celebrate Christmas the way they would have normally have, right? And it's that thing that binds us at this moment, that we're all experiencing this and going through it together. But I've also seen in that, that like any trauma, people react to traumas very, very differently. And one of the things that I would want to advocate for in our community and our families and the places that we visit is for people to be more sensitive to the way people are responding to this trauma. and allowing for people the space to respond to that in the way that they need to. More than anything right now, we need more grace. It doesn't mean that we don't need good thinking and we don't need strategy and we don't need all this. We need all those things. But we also need a significant amount of grace because for the first time in my life, I'm going through a trauma with 400,000 other people in Knox County at the same time, a traumatic event. And all of us know that like any traumatic event, there's going to be things that come out of this time that end up impacting other parts of our life in the future. And again, I don't say that as a doomsday sayer or anything like that. I just want us to call it what it is and acknowledge that we're all moving through a really unique event in life right now. And if anything, we need some grace so we can move through that well together. So.
Okay. Ms. Lee, Ms. Christie, Mr. McMillan.
I know we talked about this a while ago, the superintendent did, but I would encourage staff, if you're at least 40 or older, I would encourage you to take the vaccine. Obviously, I'm going to take it because of age, but one of my doctors convinced me a couple weeks ago when he said that technically his wife didn't fall into any of the early categories. And I didn't ask how old she was, but she has to be in her late 30s or early 40s because they have children that are in middle school and early high school. And his very words to me were, she would kill for it. So all the people in that group, all the doctors took it, but he was surprised that not too many of the staff members take. You know, it was optional just like it is here. But I would encourage anybody that if you have a chance to take it, think seriously about taking it for your benefit as well as others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bounds. Ms. Henderson? Mrs. Henderson? No? All right. I'll just say I would like to commend the superintendent for just the difficult work and being able to keep students in the building. And as our student who spoke so eloquently, thank you, Avery, for coming to speak to us and just reminding us that students need normalcy and they need life to be as normal as possible. And I agree, Mr. Thomas, that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm hoping that by the time we get back to fall, we can be looking at a much more normal situation. That's what our kiddos need, and we need to remember we're doing all this for the benefit of the education of our students. So thank you again to all the teachers who are making that happen and all of our staff members, and that concludes our meeting. Thank you.